Howdy y'all. We got a lot of D4s around this place, and I've had a lot of requests to kind of go over the serial numbers, the nicknames, how they got the nicknames, and outline the whole collection. I think I'm going to do that today because, to tell you the truth, I think we've forgotten ourselves. We're going to start in the shop with the oldest D4 and work our way to the newest. At any time you want more detailed information on any of these machines that we're going to go over, simply search Caterpillar D4 by the nickname, such as RD4 Whiskers, where we're going to start, or LAOL Lefty, or LAOL Whiskers, or LAOL D4 Lefty. That'll bring up the playlist, that'll bring up the videos, that'll bring up all the extra information that you want to know. We're going to start right here with Dad's pride and joy, and this is the 1936 Caterpillar RD4 Whiskers. This tractor is serial number 4G238, and this is the oldest one that we have in our collection. And we call this Whiskers because, well, the RD4 logo looks like it has whiskers. Of course, some of the early D4s had stickers with the whiskers too. If you've been following the story, we have a love-hate relationship with Whiskers because, well, for some reason water just loves D4 engines, and these early D4400s, I think they have problems with the head. We have found very few D4s that are this series or 7J series that have not had the heads repaired or replaced. The pre-combustion chambers are also problematic. But this is Whiskers. It grew up in southeast Colorado in potato country on a potato farm. We're going to head back outside for the next one on the list. The next one on the list is the RD4 that we call Redemption. And it looks like Miss Little Stripes has decided to join us today. Just like Big Stripes used to, they love their big yellow cats. The serial number on this one is 4G6667, and it is an RD4. Hi, kitten. We have 4G6667's radiator right here with the RD4 tags. 4G6667 Redemption is not rebuildable. There is nothing really hardly salvageable on this machine. It's simply a parts tractor. And I call it Redemption because the serial number is, in biblical terms, not a good number to start with, but at the very end ends with the lucky number 7. Despite being condemned to parts, this tractor is actually saving others. So you could say it's redeemed itself, right, Little Stripes? Redemption is a 1937. The next one on the list, as Little Stripes is kindly pointing out, is Tot. Tot is another 1937 RD4. Now we got Tot with its companion tractor Tater, which is a 5T and newer. We'll go over it in a little bit. Tot also came from the San Luis Valley in Colorado and was a potato farm tractor. Guessing that you understand the name Tot is in Tater Tot. Of course, we did a video walk around and tried to start Tot, but it's got some fuel pump issues. Anyway, our plans for this tractor are to see if we can get it going. I think it's salvageable. It was a ran when parked, and the engine is free, as is the pony motor. The next tractor on the list, well, it's been condemned to the can. So we're going to visit Headcase. Headcase, as you can see, well, it ain't got no head. And that's because Headcase's head has been removed for Lefty. Good, serviceable, working RD4 and early D4 heads are really hard to come by. Now this tractor was running, but is getting diesel fuel dumped into the engine, so it needs some fuel pump work, if indeed we can get it going. The pony motor on this one's also free, and I think it runs. Although we've never really tried to get this one running. We've been in too big of a hurry to find some head or something that we can get Lefty done with. This tractor is 4G7425, and you can see, as I spoke about earlier, it has the D4 logo with the whiskers. This tractor would probably make a good project if indeed we had another serviceable head, but at the moment we're a little short on those, despite all of the machines that we have. For obvious reasons, we call this Headcase because we had to steal the head off of it for Lefty. And yes, I make little voices for all of these. Well, Headcase voice is very scared. Headcase is a 1937 tractor. And a lot of folks would call this an RD4. Probably one of my favorite tractors, if not, well, I'm not going to say it. I have a rocky relationship with Lefty and Whiskers, so this is probably my next favorite tractor. This is Buster, and Buster is 4G7694, also a 1937 tractor. Buster got its name from busting those stuck tracks loose that we ended up putting on Lefty. Buster here did all the hard work, and Buster and I have a lot of hours together busting tracks. Buster's voice, of course, has got to be a cowboy. Buster also has very straight fenders, and really, only the track chains are not great. This is really a good running tractor, and definitely a candidate for a future project. Obviously, it got its name from helping me bust tracks loose, but Buster came from a sawmill up here in the mountains of Colorado. Because much like Lefty, Buster's got the belt pulley on the back, and this is what they ran the sawmill with. The remnants of the whisker logo is still vaguely visible here up at the top. Buster's a 1937 4G D4. That brings us to Lefty here, Lil Lefty. And Lefty is really the star of LAOL. And Lefty has just had the head off of Headcase installed on this engine. And we've got our fingers crossed that we don't have any more problems this time. Lefty is a 1939 Caterpillar D4 4G 9986. You could say Lefty was the gateway Caterpillar to get us into this whole mess. The whole purpose of Lefty was a direction for the channel, the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel has been a passion of mine because it's something that I wanted to do for my son, because it's something that he always wanted to do. So that is where Lefty got started, because it gave the channel a direction, and it was something that Dad and I and Grandpa all loved. So far, every tractor that we've went over is in the narrow 44-inch configuration. The name Little Lefty came about because when we started taking things apart, we noticed extra wear on the left side pedal and the right side track. That was indicative of an operator that was turning left a lot, probably with a very popular implement here in eastern Colorado, the one-way disc or one-way plow, and that is why we called it Lefty. The Lil part came about because when I worked in Antarctica, there was a dozer down there that we called Lefty, a D8R, that had steering issues as well. So, to delineate it, I call this Little Lefty. To be honest, Little Lefty never should have been rebuilt. It should have been scrapper parts and nothing more. But once we got into it, we fell in love with it, and this is how you see it today. And it has been a labor of love because there's no other reason to do this with any tractor, because I don't expect in my lifetime to ever make my money back out of these things. There's another tractor coming up next that is the tractor that actually saved this project. And we're going to go outside in the loafing shed to show you where Hannah, Montana is. A very kind viewer contacted us from up in Montana and had a lot of very good components that are living today on Lefty, including these grousers. But it was the engine block, pistons, etc. that really saved this project that came off of that 7J tractor. As you can see, there's not too much left of Hannah, Montana. There's some track frames and a few other parts over by the other D4s. I've got this one in here under the loafing shed to kind of keep it out of the weather. Hannah, Montana is 7J4265, and it is a wide stance tractor. Was a wide stance tractor. Dad and I call it Hannah, Montana because, well, we went to Montana to get Hannah, Montana. Mr. Sprocket says hello. Well, kittens, how are you? We got all three. We got Sprocket, Crystal, and Throttle sitting over there. The truth is, we would never got to where we are with Lefty without this tractor, and I'm still very grateful for it. Now we're gonna head back to the home for the abused and neglected D4s. Frankly, this one's one of my least favorites. Now, this is another 1941 7J that has the really interesting dozer blade put on by our McCoy Caterpillar dealer, the predecessor to the modern-day Wagner here in Colorado. McCoy Caterpillar was very innovative and experimental with a lot of their equipment. And most of these tractors that we have came from that dealer. This tractor is a 1941 7J 4739 with matching tags on the engine block, and this is the McCoy dozer. It's creative, it's innovative, and we call this one the real McCoy because it was from McCoy Caterpillar, hence the real McCoy. Now, this one doesn't have a voice, but it doesn't have an engine on it anymore either. Now we're gonna go in the small shop to look at the next ones on the list. This one is 5T2138. And I lovingly call this one Tater. Just like the others, this came from potato country up in the San Luis Valley in Colorado. So Tater is a very fitting name. Tater's a runner. It definitely runs. We had to push start it. The pony motor needs some work, but I think this will be a good tractor. And Tater's voice is a football player because, I don't know, it just came to my mind. It's stuff happens up there that you guys probably, it's weird up there. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Tater is also a 1945. So there's Tater, and Tater's in a narrow configuration, as opposed to Carl, right here next to it. Carl's a wide configuration. Carl is a 1945 5T 3174W, but Carl's got the long track frames. It's the only one we have with the long track frames. That's also known as a 5-roller frame because there's 5 rollers underneath Carl, and the tracks are about a foot longer than the 5T here next to it that has 4 rollers in a foot shorter track frame. If you're having trouble keeping up with all these serial numbers and dates, well, go to the Caterpillar D4 parts and future projects playlist. In the description, I have them all labeled out. Carl is a future project. This is going to be the next big one we do after Lefty, and we are going to paint this OD green. Much to Dad's chagrin, but I've got him convinced now, and it'll cover a lot better than Highway Yellow. Plus, it's a Warrior tractor, and it was not at all uncommon to get these after the war in OD green. In fact, a lot of the parts on here were OD green, painted over with yellow. Carl here is going to take quite a bit of work, and Carl has the voice of the character from the movie Sling Blade. It actually started as kind of an inside joke between a friend and mine when I made a short video for Wheezy, which we'll get to in a bit, where we tried to start the pony motor and didn't have gas in it, and I said, "It ain't got no gas in it." And so that was about the time we got Carl from my friend. So, yeah, Carl with a K. And just for note, I come in here once in a while and dump oil in here. We're going to have to strip this whole engine down, but, you know, my wishful thinking never ends. That brings us to this poor old boy right here. We call Festus. Festus is a wide. It's a 1946 5T. Cats love this tractor. This is their favorite big yellow cat. This is 5T 5099 Festus. I'll show you why we call it Festus. You might notice that Festus is wearing Lefty's old tracks. Those are not the tracks that came off of it. And that's because the tracks that came off of it ended up going on Lefty after Buster busted them loose. Festus sat parked next to a irrigation ditch for a long time, which is why those tracks were so stuck. Festus obviously has a voice from the popular TV show of a Western that he played a character in that show. I'll be 100% honest, we're a little mean to Festus around here. We've stolen a lot of parts off of this, including his shoes, his tracks, and we're gonna need a lot of these parts for Carl in there. You can see the magneto, the carburetor off of Festus is actually on Lefty right now. Why Festus? Well, we actually did a vote. When we got these 5 D4s here, I put them up for a vote and let the subscribers vote on, I think I had 2 or 3 different names, and Festus won, which is good, because it was by far my favorite. Why Festus? Well, Festus has got bullet holes in him. A couple of them right here, and a graze right there. Festus just seems very Western to me. If you're a Caterpillar D4 person, well, you might have just realized something. And yeah, we don't have any 2Ts. 2Ts are the warrior tractors. A lot of times OD green, almost always military, because these were very limited, if no production, for the civilian market during that time. So we'd like to add one to our collection someday, but that is the only series out of the first 2 generation D4s that we don't have. This is just my opinion, but I consider the 4G, 7J, 2T, 5T D4s all first generation D4s. For a lot of reasons, they carried this similar engine block, the Caterpillar D4400, and they had changes, but they were minor changes over the years, over the different series, but they really upped their game when they came to the 7U and 6U series. This is the 1950 7U 9360, matching number on the engine block and the rear of the machine. We call this one Can Opener. This was another one that was voted on, and well, we call it Can Opener for 2 different reasons. In the toolbox, which is actually on Lefty now, but there was a can opener in there, and it was a Coors beer can opener. You might know Coors is a Colorado beer, so no doubt this is a Colorado tractor, and I'm sure at the end of the day they had him a Coors banquet. On a side note, Dad and Grandpa used to raise brew barley for Coors back in the 70s. The other reason we call it can opener is because, well, it kind of opened itself. Right there in the side panel on the bottom of the engine block, you can see that probably a rod started coming out the side. That's can opener. Can opener doesn't have a voice, but I'm thinking if he did, he should have a voice of like a lush, a bum or something. I don't know. I have to think about that. Same with Festus here, parts. Next, we have the 6U 6837, and this one's a narrow gauge. You'll notice that can opener was a wide track. When Caterpillar changed to the 6U and 7U series, they delineated the difference between the narrow and wide with the 6 narrow 6U and 7U wide. This is another one that everybody got to vote on, and we call this one Grader Hater, because, well, it's not a matching. This engine does not match the tag on the back of the tractor. That's because it has a motor grader engine in it. The 6U like this and the 7U that we just looked at both have the upgraded 4.5-inch bore D315 engine, as opposed to the D4400 engine 4.25 bore in all the first generation tractors. Now, Grader Hater, again, no voice, but he's a pretty smooth operator. And Grader Hater's probably going to be parts for, well, we'll get to that in a minute. The last 3 or 4 I've showed you, their engines are all froze. Pony motors don't run. These are definitely parts tractors. A 1951 6U. So I can stay in chronological order, we're going back in the big shop. The kitty wants to follow us. Come on, little stripes. This is the 1952 toolbar dozer we lovingly call Wheezy. Wheezy is a 7U 17655. So you'll note that that's a pretty big serial number. The 7Us were a very popular tractor, but what makes this one unique is the toolbar. So this dozer, the arms can come off, you can drop the dozer blade and flip around the back where you could put cultivators and other implements such as rippers on the back of the machine. Yes, Wheezy has a voice. Wheezy talks out of his smokestack because Wheezy sounds like a smoker, and he coughs. And Wheezy's getting pretty cluttered up here. Interesting to note, I have a whole assortment of actual Caterpillar wrenches in here. So a whole set, actual, of old Billings and Armstrongs. No, they didn't come with the tractor. I've never been that lucky on any of these. I've had to search and find all of those individually, and some of them came from way overseas. Oh yeah, I got sidetracked. Anyway, Wheezy has that voice because Wheezy's got a fuel system issue, and it sounds a little weird. So we call it Wheezy. But Wheezy is a runner. The pony motor's a runner. We're going to keep it as a runner. This is a wide tractor. This one came from Nebraska. Second to the RD4. These are the two we spent the most money on. And we overpaid for both of them, to be honest. This one's simple. The pony motor's got another leak to it. Kind of needs rebuilt. But this tractor's a good machine. We're going to keep it. We're just going to keep it running. We're going to maintain it. And it's just going to be part of our pride here. See what I did? Cats, pride, lions, tigers. I like it. When Wheezy's in character, this is like the helpful old man in the shop that helps out all the other tractors. I've been told I should write a children's book using all these characters, and I've thought about it, but I don't even know where to start. I've thought about writing a book about grief and using these tractors in it. I don't know. I'll think about it. Now, we're going back outside for Old Smoky. Brings up the end of the 7U product line. It's very close to one of the last D4 7U's made. Sadly, Old Smoky had the misfortune of being in a Colorado mountain wildfire. My dad wasn't happy about this name. When we let people vote on him, he liked Crispy. I kind of liked Crispy too, but Old Smoky won it out. So this is Old Smoky. And the 6U here, the 7U over there, probably going to be parts for Old Smoky, because after Carl, I think this is the next one we want to bring in the shop because it is a very unique tractor. What makes Old Smoky unique is that this is a system where you could actually start, run, and operate the pony motor all from the driver's compartment. And it has a hydraulic assisted clutch, electric start pony motor, all the bells and whistles that you would expect. The undercarriage on this thing is beautiful. It has a solid front idlers. Yeah, we'd have to go through everything, but I think it's worth it. Don't you, little stripes? Yeah, this engine's froze. You can see on the bottom of it how it didn't get as hot as the fire up here on the top. And little Stripes is pointing that out as well. Old Smoky doesn't really have a voice, but you know what? I'm going to give him one right now. What do you think? Only you can prevent forest fires. This one will be our project after Carl, we're thinking. But if we ever get that one done, I'm going to have to get a campaign hat so I can sit up there like Smokey the Bear. We're not done yet. I got a couple honorable mentions that aren't D4s, but that's the D4s. That's the outline of all the D4s that we have for now. One of the honorable mentions here is the 1945 D4400 power unit. Serial number on this is S4346. I call this engine Gray Day. Gray Day is insurance for Carl too, because this engine's free and the pony motor's free. We have one more honorable mention, but I have to go back in the can. Not that can. The 1937 Caterpillar 22. I call this the old man, and this was Grandpa's tractor. This is kind of a tribute to him. Grandpa and I used to go around to tractor auctions and things all the time looking for old Caterpillars to bring home, and this is the only one that actually made it home. We just never could really afford to get into the hobby. My dad always called Grandpa the old man, so it was just a nickname that stuck, so everything was the old man. We still refer to Grandpa as the old man around the shop. The old man's tools, the old man's tractors, the old man did this, the old man did that. My son even drove around this tractor, so it has a lot of family history and memories to it. The serial number on this tractor is a 2F9425SP for special parts. And I think that's for the winter front that's on the front. This tractor also has a soft spot in our hearts because our family broke out ground here in Colorado with Caterpillar 22s. The 1945 GMC 6x6 truck with the Bantam crane on it. I call that one the War Baby because it's a surplus truck after the war that they made into a crane. The 1945 GMC 6x6 truck with the Bantam cable backhoe on the back. I call this one Woody. It's got a wood steering wheel. Let's talk price. let's talk about what we paid for these and what they're worth. Knowing what I know now, we definitely overpaid for Wheezy here. It's a neat tractor. It's a unique tractor. Especially at the very beginning, I was very naive. And even Lefty here we overpaid for with the engine in the condition it was, stuck as it was. Realistically, I will say that 80% of these tractors here we have paid virtually scrap price for. And honestly, on today's market, that's about all they're worth. We paid the most for that RD4 over there. That is the most expensive one of all of them. And Dad and I have both invested our own money together on all of this. Especially in light of the problems that RD4 has, it has not been worth what we paid for it. It pains me to say that the tractor market is dead. It's just not there. And every day that goes by, there's less and less interested in it. The tractors are even harder to market and sell because obviously you have to have a place that's not paved or, you know, open ground where you can run tracks on it. That's the overview of the serial numbers, nicknames, and years of the tractors we have here. I am pretty sure there's probably something I got wrong, but I tried to keep it as straight as I could. I do want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm going to give 3 pieces of advice here to anybody thinking about going into the tractor restoration or collecting hobby. Number 1, get parts books. Number 2, get operators and service books. Get the books, invest in the books, because the serial numbers change, everything changes all the time, different dates, different part numbers, and you will be lost and you will make big mistakes if you can't reference those books. Number 3, start with a running tractor, your first one. Don't jump into it like Dad and I did with a mess like Lefty was. Tot also came from the Colorado San Luis Valley and was a potato farm tractor just like Tot. Wait, just like Tater. Tater Tot. Man, I got this mixed up again. This is 5T5099. Hey, let me read that again. I'm not sure. I probably should delete this. Or put it in the outtakes. Anyway, that's Gray Day. The serial number on this tractor is a 2F. I forgot. I gotta look. The serial number on this tractor is a 2F9245P.